Have you heard of this post-truth before?
I have.
You have. How long ago and in what sort of context?
In the Trump, it's become quite prominent.
Yes, most people have said that. What sort of things had you know, did you feel like you understood it? Was it
when I initially heard it, it was like the term postmodern to me. I thought it was, maybe a little bit of BS, a little bit made up and not really a pure term.
Yeah.
But in the post-Trump presidential era, I think it probably has some currency for use and some utility.
So in that sense, is it something that you would see as a negative?
Yes, I have scientific training, and so therefore I find everything that I do is based on evidence, and what I have to do is based clearly on evidence, which is not to mean that science cannot continue to update knowledge, but there's a very, very strong emphasis on clear evidence and finding the claims and the counterclaims and the demonstrably falsehoods within even one news cycle occurring is quite a concern for civilized society as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, so that's the next question I was going to ask you is what do you see as the great pitfall of it, like the real fear?
Well, I think it's part of saw Hitchens recently. I was looking back at Christopher Hitchens, and he uses the term solipsism, which is a definition of whereby you cannot comprehend anything outside your own reality. And for me, I think the post-truth problem is that combined with social media, we have a massive amount of solipsism where you have all these echo chambers where people are not able to take on civil discourse or have debate or see the other side or actually see another way of doing things. So I think it's an enemy of debate. I think it's an enemy of innovation, potentially, in that the news cycle and being on the news cycle or being in the media is more important than what you say. So for that, I find it quite a dangerous thing.
It's quite terrifying, isn't it? What about any benefit? Do you see?
I mean, as a term, it probably enables a specific type of discourse to be labelled. Whether that's useful or not, I'm not quite sure yet. Because of the polarising, like the word fake news or the term fake news, the polarity that it enables people to then just completely discount someone else's opinion is also incredibly dangerous.
We really saw that, didn't we?
Yeah,
we keep seeing it.
So maybe it has a utility as a term to classify something, but actually as a utility in society, I'm not so sure.
What about, I heard somebody talk the other day, he was a sociologist talking about post-truth, and he was saying that science, he wrote an article for The Guardian that he apparently got into a lot of controversy over because he said that science has always been post-truth. And he sort of put it in a historical context of, say, around just after World War I, a lot of negativity felt towards science and sort of the assumptions made with basically that there's this general historical process of institutions of knowledge being shaken. And
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, it's down to definitions, really, then, isn't it? As to whether science has always been post-truth. I mean, the empirical basis for me is always continuing. Well, there's two parts. There's a Popperian falsification version of science, where you're continually trying to prove yourself wrong, and if you're able to continue not to do that, then the theory you put forth, the hypothesis, is more likely to stand up. So that's one aspect of it, but then there's a separation, if you like, of the empirical part is always continuing to acquire knowledge. This misnomer that science is somehow perfect and immutable has never been part of science. It's always continuing to acquire the data and adjust according to that
existing
truth. So I think that's probably more of a modern concept, in that science is this perfect immutable object, which
Yes.
it never has been. People that work in science
Yes.
know that,
Yeah.
and are always willing to adjust if something better comes along to account for the problem or the idea. So in terms of whether science, the other side of it is science can be manipulated politically and has been in many, many dark ways, and there's the road to hell, isn't it, is paved with good intentions. There's many areas of medicine, there's many areas of science where the actual outcome might have been very, very negative, despite the initial quest of science being altruistic or a benevolent one. So there are two parts of science. There is the actual research and there's the application. Now, the application of it can be corrupted, and there's many moral aspects to that as well. So I'm not sure whether that in that piece where they drew the line as what science is, where they're saying the manipulation of science is a post-truth thing. I would argue that it isn't. The science itself is just this empirical data acquisition, trying to give explanations based on that data.
So what about you as a media consumer? How do you notice a difference now? Say, I'm assuming you use the internet to an extent.
I use the internet, but I'm at an age where I don't find any utility in social media. It doesn't do anything for me. So I just do not engage. I've got enough things in my life to be distracted by that are much more important. So for that reason, it doesn't have a negativity for me, but it does have an influence on some of the more conventional media that I consume on the internet. So seeing YouTube videos, seeing a lot of these sort of pieces and presented in the media is also problematic, because I think the social media fastest to post model has been adopted by the more mainstream media as well, and that so it does influence whether I directly partake or consume social media.
Changing the traditional media. So how about you in authority then, like with your consumption of, say, conventional media, how you might consume it, whether you trust.
I think it hasn't changed for me, and so I'm fortunate to have gone through a critical education system in Australia, where I was taught healthy tools of criticism and cynicism, and within science as well. You're only as good as your last paper, and it doesn't matter whether you've got a Nobel Prize or whatever. You should be checked on what you're presenting at that time, and so the imprimatur of having a big name or having a Nobel Prize shouldn't, it'll open doors, but it shouldn't matter now in terms of the data and the science that you're appraising. So I have that same appraisal of whatever media is presented to me, whether it's political, mainstream media, or whether it's a scientific or medical paper.
It sounds like a nice steady groundedness for you, in a period of great change, really.
Sure.
So what about, we've been asking people to end it to talk about something that they could say is a truth as far as they're concerned, something that they can rest or invest faith in as a truth.
Well, again, I'll probably get back to that term solipsism in terms of, there's a philosophical argument that I could only really assess my direct experiences as a truth of things, but I'm a relativist in many ways. Even that, there are many different interpretations from myself and from other people. So if I look at several things that are looked at, potentially classified as truths within science even, I am looking at the weight of the evidence and seeing if that matches with the final conclusion, but it's not an absolute truth. I don't think there are necessarily absolute truths.
No, that's interesting.
Science can only potentially, again, not be proven wrong to say that you're getting closer to the truth, but I don't think you can ever actually claim absolutism.
Yeah, it's a very interesting and complex stance on it, because it's not, while there's the empirical sort of basis of things, it's also, there's a fluidity to it as well.
Yeah, I mean, in virtual worlds, and we could all be just one thought experiment. Again, back to solipsism, you can only assess from your own reality right now, which definition.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful. Thank you very much.
You're
That was
welcome.
fantastic. We have a media